This is the MTN 530 News.
Kyo Kozar. Community members can come out for food, fun, and some dancing at tonight's Josephine Crossing Summer Concert Series. And this month, they're hosting Eat, Share, Give. We'll have details on that story coming up.
The Yellowstone County Board of Commissioners took its first steps to put a 3% local option sales tax on recreational marijuana sold in the county. I'll bring you details coming up.
And taking a live look outside at the sky over the Magic City on this Tuesday evening, some parts of the Q2 viewing area are in the line of some possible severe weather. Good evening, everyone. Thanks for joining us. I'm Russ Riesinger. Thunderstorms bringing with them the risk of heavy downpours as well as lightning and hail, two things we definitely don't need. We want to get right to Chief Meteorologist Ed McIntosh for the very latest on that. Ed, how's it looking out there?
Well, we had the storm system that moved through the Billings area, at least through parts of town. Take a look and see how it looked from Grand. Once you got from Broadwater northward, the rain was a bit heavier, especially between 4 and 5. In fact, let's go ahead and take a look how that satellite imagery came together. So we slowed it down, and you can see that storm cell just slide through the Billings area, produce some small hail up around the airport as well in a few other locations. But once you got south of Billings, really there wasn't very much there. There's pretty much where the storm was centered, right about 4:40 in the afternoon, right across town. But you can see just a very small cell. If we look out across the rest of the region, we've seen some stronger storms also around the Miles City area, where you've got some outdoor activities planned on Main Street in the next short while. So take safe cover briefly, and then that storm system should start to ease up. Across the region, we saw some storms up in Musselshell County that caused some gusty winds and lightning that could have aggravated fires there. And through the evening hours, we'll be watching especially southeast Montana and into Wyoming and South Dakota for the possibility of some of those strongest storms. More details on the weather coming up in just a little while.
All right, thank you, Ed. Well, lightning over the weekend is blamed for sparking 3 fires that have burned thousands of acres in what's being called the MY Complex in Musselshell County. This morning, evacuation orders for Queens Point Road were lifted. The Peterson fire, burning 12 miles south of Melstone, remains the most stubborn of those fires burning in the MY Complex. Officials say the terrain doesn't allow for crews to put equipment down. So far, those fires have burned just under 28,000 acres. And these are some pictures of the 4-mile fire, a smaller fire that is now burning southwest of Boerne in both Rosebud and Bighorn counties. The Bureau of Land Management reports that fire had grown to more than 5,000 acres as of about 1 o'clock this afternoon. New plans were announced today in the ongoing search for missing hiker Tatum Morrell. Q2's Brandon Warren fills us in.
23-year-old Tatum Morrell was last heard from on the night of July 1st. Morrell was solo hiking 5 12,000-foot peaks near Red Lodge. She was reported missing late into the night of July 5th, and after days of searching thoroughly, officials believe her to be deceased. However, the search continues. If you can recall, National Guard helicopters were used in the search, and they provided high-resolution imaging, which is helping guide the search going forward.
There's some areas that kind of are standing out that we need to get more information on. So we're in the process of getting another helicopter to come back in the area and potentially insert the ground crews around those areas, those clues, so we can search there.
These ground crews will be working between July 16th and July 18th. The crew will be 4 dog teams which will search for Morrell. The areas that they will be searching are Marker and Ship Lakes and the eastern faces of Sundance and Bowback Mountains.
We did get a report that there was someone seen near in that Dude Lake area and over by Lake Mary, a lone hiker. And so we are following up on all those every clue that we get at this point.
Officials are asking that the public avoid the area if possible on the days of July 16th, 17th, and 18th.
The dogs, the less scent that's in the area while they're actively searching, it just helps them focus a little bit better. So if possible, if there were not people in that area, that would be helpful to improve the success of the dog teams.
Going forward, search crews will continue operating in a limited capacity. In Billings, Brandon Warren, MTN News.
And officials say they will continue following every lead. Well, marijuana is currently legal to possess and smoke in the state of Montana, but it's not legal to sell on the open market until January 1st, 2022. County and municipal governments have the task of implementing legalization in their own communities. Q2's Mitch LAGGE brings us an update on a marijuana vote that could bar the businesses from opening in Yellowstone County.
The question of whether to allow recreational marijuana into the Yellowstone County borders and tax it at 3% will be on the November 2nd ballot, after the Yellowstone County Board of Commissioners approved 2 resolutions on Tuesday. One ballot question would ask voters whether they want to deny 7 types of marijuana businesses from setting up shop in Yellowstone County. The second question would ask if the county should tax marijuana products sold at a 3% rate. The county already has a number of medical marijuana dispensaries that have been in business since at least 2016. Local officials across the state are still trying to hammer out how to implement the sale of marijuana locally under House Bill 701, which the state legislature drafted after a legalization initiative passed statewide. Yellowstone County Board Chair, Commissioner JONS, said they ought to bring the issue back to the voters, since county residents passed the original initiative by a narrow margin of 1,000 votes. He also said the initiative wasn't entirely truthful about how the tax revenue would be spent.
You saw the advertisements out selling, hey, this is going to be used for trails and stuff like that. And they knew full well that there was a possibility that wasn't going to be true, but they went ahead and spent millions of dollars on that, selling it that way. So the legislature came back and said, you know what, you guys can figure out how you want to manage.
A public hearing on the 2 ballot questions will be held inside the Stillwater building coming up on August 3rd. After public comment, the commissioners will make the final decision of whether to hold the election. In Billings, Mitch LAGGE, MTN News.
Now, the Billings city government last week expressed its intentions to run a similar question on the ballot of whether to allow certain types of marijuana businesses inside city limits. The 2022 contest for Montana's new congressional seat now has 3 Democrats in the race. CORA NEUMANN, the health policy expert from BOZEMAN, announced this morning that she's launching her campaign for the new district. The 46-year-old NEUMANN ran briefly for U.S. Senate in 2020, but withdrew after Democratic Governor Steve Bullock got into that contest against Republican Senator Steve Daines. NEUMANN joins 2 other Democrats already running for the new congressional seat, State Representative Lori Bishop of Livingston and Missoula attorney Monica Trinnell. The new district's boundaries won't be drawn until later this fall, but it's expected to cover most of western Montana. NEUMANN is the founder of a group called We Are Montana, which has worked to get personal protective equipment and vaccines to parts of the state during the pandemic.
Democrats win in Montana by going door to door, right, and really meeting people, and that's critical. So that's what we plan to build a strong campaign, tell our story, get out and meet people. I have a long track record of working with both Republicans and Democrats.
2 Republicans are also in the race, former state senator Al Olszewski of Kalispell and former Congressman and U.S. Interior Secretary Ryan Zinke. Billings residents are gathering at the Josephine Crossing Amphitheater today for their summer concert series. This month they're hosting a nonprofit that aims to provide people in need of resources. In tonight's Positively Montana, Q2's Shaquille Cozart shares the meaning behind the mission.
Every year, Josephine Crossing has their summer concert series, and this week they're hosting Eat, Share, Give, a nonprofit in Billings dedicated to keeping the community fed.
This is a grassroots nonprofit. You know, it started out of COVID. It didn't start as a nonprofit. I didn't know we'd be starting a nonprofit. But through COVID, when we did Project Love Billings and served 21,842 sack lunches to kids at their doorsteps, once that need was kind of met, we knew we'd built something really important.
Moyer said that there's a huge need in the community for food, shelter, and resources. This is something that organization volunteers have noticed and personally experienced.
When I lost my job in November, kind of at the height of the pandemic, and wasn't really sure what I was going to do, Eat, Share, Give stepped up, no questions asked.
Eat, Share, Give provided Boyder's family of 2 with meals, which she said got her through difficult times.
So when I would come to the door and I would answer the door and get these meals, full meals, pasta, loaves of bread, a salad made with care by volunteers, I knew somebody actually cared. about my son and I. And that was a pretty low point in our lives, and it really made a difference to us.
Each Share Give hopes to provide more families with food and resources with the help from donations from Tuesday's concert at Josephine Crossing. Each donation will be matched up to $600 by Hannah Reno of Keller Williams Yellowstone Properties.
My long-term hope is for the community to come together, and all of these groups that support people in poverty collaborate to come up with a solution. It's just too difficult to each one individually try to meet the problem. This is going to take a collaborative effort, and I'm hoping that this is the beginning of that collaborative effort.
Reporting in Billings, I'm Shaquille Cozart with MTN News.
The concert and festivities got started at 5, and Moyer says that fun will last until 8 o'clock tonight, and they'll be accepting donations the entire time. Up next on tonight's MTN 530 News here on Q2, we'll take you to a camp where Montana kids are being taught how to communicate with their dogs by using sign language. And he made a career out of splitting the uprights. We'll introduce you to another member of the Montana Football Hall of Fame a little later in sports.
From Montana's news leader, you're watching the